I came back for the family meeting about Grandpa's estate. It wasn't a funeral or a wake he was still alive, just moving slower, forgetting names, asking the same questions twice. My Uncle Mark had called it a planning session, said it was important for the whole family to be there, to get ahead of things. I flew in late Friday, took the early train to their place Saturday morning, and walked into a house that smelled like lemon disinfectant and new printer paper. Everyone was already seated. Jason, my brother, had papers spread out in front of him like he was preparing for a court case. Aunt Lila scribbled on a notepad she didn't look at. Mom wore her usual serious sweater, the one with the pearl buttons. No one looked up when I came in, not even Grandpa. I hovered in the doorway for a second too long. Then Claire, my sister, stood, crossed the room toward me with that soft urgency she reserves for when something's off. Her expression didn't shift. She leaned in and whispered, "They're excluding you." She didn't wait for my reaction. She just turned and walked back to her seat. I kept walking. I didn't ask what she meant, didn't interrupt the meeting, just sat in the only chair left, the one farthest from the folder pile. The room was quiet, thick with the scent of coffee gone cold. I watched as Jason clicked open a slideshow titled Asset Distribution Draft 3. No one handed me a copy. They'd already started. Grandpa looked tired. Blank. He didn't smile when I waved. Maybe he didn't recognize me. Or maybe he was playing along. I didn't say anything. I watched names come up on the screen. Jason, Lila, Mom, even Claire. Assigned percentages, property allocations, joint responsibilities. My name didn't appear, not once. No one said a word about it. I sat there, hands folded, trying to remember if I'd missed an earlier email. Maybe they'd sent out drafts I hadn't seen. Maybe there had been calls I didn't return. But I knew that wasn't true. I'd asked Mom 2 weeks ago if there was anything I needed to prep. She'd replied, "Oh, we're just sorting ideas, nothing set." Apparently, everything was. At one point, Aunt Lila passed a tray of muffins. She skipped me. Claire reached back and handed me one without a word. I didn't eat it. Instead, I stared at the printed page Jason passed around, the one titled Post-Care Provisions. A section about rotating care shifts. Everyone's name listed in clean columns. I wasn't on the schedule. But someone had added a note. Erin may be contacted if others are unavailable. A backup. An afterthought. I didn't speak. I didn't ask questions. I just listened while they debated who would handle taxes, who should oversee the house, who'd take the car Grandpa couldn't drive anymore. It wasn't about logistics. It was performance. A polite auction masked as duty. And somehow, I'd already been priced out. I thought about last spring, when Grandpa's roof had collapsed during a storm. I'd driven 3 hours on a Tuesday to meet the contractor, paid the difference when insurance stalled. I never told anyone. I didn't do it for recognition. But now, watching Jason assign himself the house, watching Mom nod approvingly, I realized they had forgotten, or worse, they remembered and didn't care. I stayed through the rest of the meeting. Took no notes. Said nothing. When it ended, Claire touched my shoulder again. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I only found out yesterday." I nodded once. Out in the hallway, the family started chatting about lunch. Someone mentioned reservations. No one looked at me. I walked past them toward the coat rack. Put mine on, opened the door. The wind was sharp, unforgiving. I didn't turn around. They didn't always treat me like a footnote. That's the part I still struggle to explain to people. There was a time I mattered, maybe not loudly, maybe not in the spotlight, but enough. After Dad left, I was the one who held things together. I was 19, barely out of community college, working evenings at a pharmacy and mornings at a daycare. Jason had moved out, Claire was still in high school, and Mom folded into herself like wet paper. So I did what I thought was right, paid half the rent when utilities got shut off. Skipped buying a new coat so Claire could get her AP test fees in. Called in sick so I could drive Mom to the dentist. It wasn't dramatic, no applause, no speeches, just obligation. Quiet, heavy, endless. Over time, that sense of duty calcified. I never thought to ask for thanks. I thought, this is what family means. When Grandpa started forgetting things, it was me he called first. Not Jason, not Lila, me. When he left the stove on twice in 1 week, I took the train in, bought a new range with automatic shutoff, paid for the installation myself. Didn't mention the receipt. When Mom had her hip surgery, I moved back in for 6 weeks. Slept on the couch, cooked, cleaned, changed her bandages, while Jason posted updates on Facebook about how family shows up. He never did. The care fell on me, not because they trusted me more, but because I never said no. I was the default, the fallback, the one who rearranged her schedule, used her vacation days, kept a spreadsheet of Grandpa's medication doses and the dates of his next VA appointments. I didn't complain. Not then. I told myself it mattered, that even if they didn't see it, the work counted. That one day, when things settled, I'd get to exhale and someone else would step in. But they didn't. The more I did, the less they looked. The more I sacrificed, the more invisible I became. The first crack I remember came the day Grandpa forgot my name. It was early spring. I'd brought over soup and clean socks. He looked up at me with those watery eyes and said, "Are you the nurse?" I laughed, corrected him gently. But it sat with me, not just the forgetting, but how no one else noticed. Jason hadn't seen him in weeks. Claire texted sometimes, but rarely followed through. And Lila, she only came around when there were forms to sign or insurance details to argue over. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was okay to be needed, even if not remembered. Then came the will draft. Jason mentioned it first casually during Thanksgiving. "We're thinking of simplifying things," he said, between bites of cranberry stuffing. "Grandpa doesn't want too many names on the documents. Too complicated." I'd nodded then, unsure what he meant. Now I understood. Too many names meant me. An easy omission, clean and quiet. Still, even after that, I showed up. When Grandpa fell in the bathroom, I left work early to meet the paramedics. When Mom's prescription ran out and she didn't want to admit she couldn't afford the refill, I covered it. When Claire needed someone to vent to about her divorce, I stayed on the phone till 1 a.m. Then went to work the next morning, red-eyed and quiet. I kept giving. And somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing it. They never said it outright. That's the thing. No one looked me in the eye and told me I didn't count. They just rewrote the story. Made Jason the responsible one. Lila the organizer. Claire the peacekeeper. I became the background. The assistant, the one who'd probably be okay no matter what, because I always had been. But here's the part that still catches in my throat. I let them. Every time I picked up the slack, every time I paid a bill without mentioning it, every time I showed up before being asked, I trained them to forget me. I made myself so reliable that they stopped checking if I was even there. And I believe that was love. That loyalty meant silence. That showing up was enough. Until last week. Until Claire's whisper in the hallway. Until I saw my name missing on a document that divided everything I had once helped protect. That night after the meeting, I sat on the train home with my coat zipped up to my chin, holding an untouched muffin in a napkin. I watched the city blur past, lights flickering against the window, and I remembered a detail I hadn't thought about in years. Grandpa used to call me his compass, said I always pointed true, even when no one was watching. I don't know when that changed. Or maybe I do. Maybe it never was true to begin with. Maybe I was just a placeholder, until someone more convenient showed up. 3 days after the meeting, I got a text from Claire. Just 3 words. "Check your email." I was at my desk, half listening to a project debrief, sipping lukewarm coffee. I minimized the spreadsheet, opened Gmail, and there it was, an email thread with the subject. Next steps. Estate allocation. Final review. My name wasn't on the recipient list. Claire had forwarded it to me privately. I clicked through. They'd finalized everything. Property, accounts, healthcare proxies. Jason was named executor. Aunt Lila was second. Claire was assigned emotional support coordination, whatever that meant. Me, nothing, not even a backup role. But that wasn't the worst part. The attachments included scanned documents. I opened the PDF labeled POA Revision. Page 2 made my stomach tighten. Grandpa's signature, shaky but there, authorizing power of attorney to Jason and Lila, dated 2 weeks ago. I remembered that day Grandpa had called me, confused about a doctor's appointment. Said he thought someone had changed his insurance. Wasn't sure. I told him I'd look into it. He said thank you. Said he trusted me. I guess trust didn't come with a signature. I kept reading. Buried in the notes was a financial disclosure. Joint accounts being consolidated. Jason's name was already listed on Grandpa's primary savings account. So was Lila's, not mine. And a footnote literally in tiny font at the bottom of the page, outlined something called informal repayment for past support provided by family members. Claire later told me Jason and Lila had claimed reimbursement for time spent managing Grandpa's needs. I stared at that sentence for a full minute. Managing. I thought of the time I sat in a damp waiting room with Grandpa for 6 hours because the VA system had double booked his physical. Of the night I stayed over because his space heater died and he was too cold to sleep. The meals I prepped, the floors I mopped, the $742 I spent to replace his hearing aid batteries over the past year because he kept losing them. I never asked to be reimbursed. I didn't know it was an option. They didn't tell me. Because they knew I wouldn't. I clicked through the thread again, looking for any mention of me. Nothing. Not even in passing. Just silence. As if I didn't exist. I didn't respond to Claire's message. I needed time to breathe. That night, I called Grandpa. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, voice a little distant. "Everything okay?" I hesitated. "Did Jason and Lila talk to you recently about the accounts?" He paused. "Oh, yeah. They said it's just paperwork stuff. Said you were too busy." I felt something in my chest go still. Too busy? That's what they said. That you couldn't handle it anymore, and Jason was stepping up. He said it like it made sense. Like he hadn't known I left work early 3 weeks ago to sit with him during his eye exam. "And you signed everything?" I asked. "I don't really remember," he admitted. "It was a lot of forms. They said they'd explain later." I got off the phone as calmly as I could. Then I pulled up my own email archive. I searched mortgage, utilities, prescription, transport. I found invoices, screenshots, confirmation emails, years of quiet logistics. Receipts for things no one asked me to buy, but everyone expected to be covered. Then I opened a spreadsheet. I didn't plan to. I hadn't opened it in months. It was titled Home Budget, Shared Support. I'd made it back when we thought Mom might need home care. I started adding rows, date, service, amount, gas money, medical copays, grocery runs, repairs. I tallied it line by line. $5,740 in just the last calendar year, not including the hours, the time off, the lost income from shifts I skipped. I closed the laptop before I could cry, not out of hurt, but out of recognition. That something had shifted, and I hadn't noticed. That maybe it had always been this way. 2 days later, I got a call from the bank. A courtesy notice. They were verifying changes to a joint account I was listed on. Except I didn't have a joint account. Not with Grandpa. Not with anyone in the family. The representative asked me to confirm a wire transfer authorization. I froze. "What name is on the account?" I asked. She told me. My name, my SSN, my email address. "I never authorized that," I said slowly. Her tone shifted. "Professional now. We'll flag this for fraud and freeze the account until we verify documentation." I hung up and stared at the wall for a long time. The next morning, I called Claire. "Did you know about the transfer?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she exhaled. "I think they're using your name to make it easier. You've always handled things, so the banks probably already had your info. Maybe they didn't think it would matter." "It matters. It matters because I never gave them permission. Because they didn't even ask. Because when people want your help, they frame it as trust. But when they want your silence, they call it convenience. And when they want your name without your voice, they call it family." I didn't yell, didn't storm into a room demanding answers. I knew better. That's not how they operated, and it's not how I would either. So I did something quieter, something sharper. I called the bank back, verified the fraud flag, and submitted my ID to remove myself from all linked accounts. Every joint authorization, every automatic draft, every payment pathway that could be traced back to me. I shut it all down. Then I called Grandpa's insurance, utilities, even his pharmacy. I didn't explain. I just said, "I'm no longer responsible for this account," and let them process the silence. Each call took minutes. Each one felt like untying a knot I didn't know had been there. That evening, I opened the shared drive my family had used for years. It held everything: medical forms, tax documents, scanned IDs, photos of Grandpa's prescriptions, a full file titled Erin's Planning Notes that I had maintained alone for the past 5 years. I downloaded everything into a hard drive, then deleted my folder. I left the rest. No note, no message, just absence. I logged out, never logged back in. Claire texted that night. Jason's asking if you changed something with Grandpa's account. I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the file I had quietly maintained on my laptop, the one they didn't know about. Every payment, invoice, confirmation, email, and repair cost I'd ever covered. I organized the entries, formatted the columns, and then clicked Save As. I named the file what it really was, what they forgot. By the next afternoon, my phone started buzzing. First, a call from Mom. I ignored it. Then Jason, then Lila. Then a voicemail from the bank. We're calling to confirm an attempted withdrawal was blocked due to updated authorization status. I listened to it twice. Not because I needed to, but because it felt like breathing again. A kind of quiet reversal. Not vengeance, just balance. By day 3, the chaos had begun. Claire sent another message. Jason's freaking out. Something with the utilities, says the bills bounced. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, then typed, I'm honoring their choice. I've stepped away. No emojis, no punctuation beyond the period. Then I turned off my phone. That weekend, I booked a single room in a quiet inn an hour outside the city. No laptop, no reminders, just a paperback and a heating pad. It rained the whole time. I listened to it hit the windows like applause. The first night, I slept for 12 hours straight. The second, I lit a candle I brought from home and didn't check my email once. When I got back Monday morning, my inbox had 27 unread messages. 12 were from Jason, 2 from Aunt Lila, 1 from an unknown number that said, You're punishing us for no reason, and 1 from Claire. They're planning something. Be careful. I made coffee. Saturday at the table. Read each message in full, then archive them all. That afternoon, Jason showed up at my apartment. I didn't buzz him in. He texted, You're being childish. I didn't reply. Then he sent, We needed to move fast. Grandpa's memory is going. It made sense to put things in our names. You would have just overcomplicated it. That was the first time I let myself feel the anger. Not sharp, not blazing, just low and steady, like a hum in my chest. I opened the What They Forgot file again, scrolled to the bottom. 23 480.3起. That's what I had spent, out of pocket, over the last 4 years. Unreimbursed, unacknowledged, uninvited. Later that week, I made an appointment with a lawyer, Ethan. He had been a friend from college, now specialized in estate conflict and financial fraud. I forwarded him everything, the file, the bank notice, screenshots of texts, copies of the documents Claire had secretly sent me. He read in silence, then looked at me. You realize this isn't just a family dispute. If they used your name to access or move funds, that's impersonation, potentially fraud. I nodded. I'm not here to sue. I just want to sever everything, every tie, every risk. He leaned back. You're not angry? I'm tired, I said, and I don't want to spend another year patching holes they keep digging. By the end of the meeting, we had a plan. Remove my name from any shared financial asset. Submit notices to institutions. File a cease and desist if necessary. He asked if I wanted to send a letter. I said no. Let them feel the distance. Let them wonder where the ground went. That night, I got a call from Mom. She didn't say hello. Just, you're overreacting. I said nothing. She kept going. Jason was just trying to protect the estate. It's not personal. You're always so emotional about these things. I almost laughed. The same woman who sobbed when a neighbor got a new car before she did was calling me emotional. I hung up. Didn't call back. The next morning, Claire forwarded me an email Jason sent the rest of the family. It said, We need to get Erin back involved. She's holding critical info. She always made things messier, but she was reliable. That was the line that stayed with me. Not appreciated, not respected, just reliable. Like a faucet or a printer. Something that worked until it didn't. That's when I knew I hadn't left them behind. I'd simply stopped being useful. And to them, that was the same thing. It started slowly. First came the bounced bills. Claire messaged me quiet, hesitant. Mom says the phone plan got disconnected. Jason's card didn't go through. I read it while standing in line at the post office, waiting to mail documents Ethan had drawn up to formally remove my name from anything with the family trust. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, Grandpa missed his meds. They were on autopay. No one remembered until the pharmacy called. That one hit differently. Not guilt, just confirmation. They hadn't replaced me. They'd never planned to. They assumed I'd keep catching the pieces, even after I stepped away. Then the texts started flooding in. Mom sent 3 in a row, each one shorter than the last. Please respond. I'm worried. You're scaring us. Jason tried sarcasm first. Wow, petty much? Then blame. We're all struggling. You made it worse. Finally, desperation. Can we just talk? Please. Call me. I turned off notifications. Let the storm rage where I couldn't hear it. By day 4, it escalated. Grandpa's doctor called me directly. Hi, Erin. Your number's still listed as primary. We had to reschedule an urgent cardiology consult. Your brother wasn't reachable. I closed my eyes. Explained as politely as I could that I was no longer managing Grandpa's care. Gave him Jason's new number. Hung up. Blocked the clinic. By the weekend, they were calling from burner numbers. I recognized the pattern's last digits off by 1. New area codes. A voicemail from Mom played while I cooked dinner. I don't know what's happening. Jason said you changed everything. Why would you do this to us? You're breaking the family. I deleted it. Finished making soup. Then the door knock came. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was Sunday morning. I had just settled in with a book and a fresh mug of coffee. The knock was soft, almost reluctant. I opened the door halfway. Claire stood there, eyes tired, holding a shopping bag with some groceries and a manila folder. I brought eggs, she said, like it was a joke. I didn't laugh, just stepped aside. She didn't sit, just hovered near the kitchen table like it wasn't hers to claim. They're unraveling, she said. Jason's overwhelmed. Mom cried in the grocery store yesterday. Aunt Lila's pretending none of it's her fault. I didn't respond. She placed the manila folder down gently. This is everything I could collect. Emails, statements, screenshots of Jason's plans, even his text to Lila about forging your authorization for the transfer. He didn't just overstep. He planned this. He was betting you'd never notice. I stared at the folder, then at her. I didn't help them, she said quietly. I didn't stop them either. She waited for me to say something. I didn't. She left 15 minutes later. No hug, no dramatic goodbye. Just a faint, I hope you're okay, before the door clicked shut behind her. That night, I went through the folder. Claire hadn't exaggerated. There were PDF contracts where my name had been digitally inserted, copied from old forms. Dates that matched my calendar in suspiciously perfect ways. Even a message from Jason. We'll fix the paperwork later. She won't notice. I did. And now I had proof. The next morning, I sent everything to Ethan. His reply came fast. This is fraud. Plain and prosecutable. Want a file? I stared at the screen a long time. Typed, deleted, typed again. Finally sent. Not yet. Just keep it documented. I want them to know I know. By Wednesday, I got another call. This time from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. Erin? It was Mom. Her voice was shaky, thinner than usual. I didn't know. About the transfer. Jason told me you signed everything. I swear I thought you agreed. Silence. He said you were just overwhelmed, that you didn't want the hassle. I didn't answer. She went on. We've been trying to fix things, but everything's falling apart. The mortgage is overdue. Grandpa's insurance lapsed. I didn't know how much you were handling. I thought... She stopped. I thought it was just little things. I could have said so many things. I didn't. Instead, I asked one question. When you thought I was just helping a little, why did you never ask if I was okay? She didn't answer. I hung up. By Friday, Claire messaged again. Jason wants to meet. He says he'll apologize. I didn't reply. He sent a voice note anyway. Long, rambling, defensive. I didn't think it would matter. You're always the one who holds things together. I figured you'd fix it, eventually, like always. He sounded like someone realizing the safety net was gone. He sounded like someone falling. That weekend, I changed my phone number. Not out of cruelty. Out of necessity. They had built their lives assuming I would never stop catching their mistakes. That I would never step far enough away for them to feel the distance. They were wrong. And now they were discovering what happens when the person they dismissed, overlooked, depended on finally, fully, and silently lets go. They set up a Zoom call. Claire warned me the night before. It's supposed to be about Grandpa's care, she texted, but they're going to talk about you. I didn't plan to join. I had no obligation to anymore. But part of me was curious. Curious how they'd navigate the mess without me. Curious what they'd say when the person they tried to erase was suddenly staring back at them through a screen. I logged in late on purpose. Their faces were already lined up in neat rectangles, Jason's brows drawn tight, Aunt Lila blinking like she hadn't expected to see me, Mom pale and pursing her lips the way she always did when she wanted to seem composed but couldn't quite pull it off. Grandpa wasn't there. Claire was, off to the side, quiet. Jason cleared his throat first. Thanks for joining, Erin. We thought it was important to regroup. I didn't say anything. He pressed on. There's been some confusion lately. Miscommunication. Miscommunication? I asked flatly. A beat passed. I mean, things got complicated. The accounts, the POA, there was a lot happening and maybe we didn't communicate it well. I stared at the screen. You forged my name on a bank transfer. Lila jumped in. That's not proven. I leaned forward slightly. I have the screenshots, the folder, the emails where Jason said I was too busy, so they'd sign for me. Jason looked down. Mom finally spoke. I didn't know he did that. I thought you'd given permission. I swear, Erin, if I'd known. You didn't ask. I cut in. Not once. Not when the insurance lapsed. Not when Grandpa's care schedule changed. Not when the utilities started bouncing. Jason lifted his head, voice suddenly defensive. We were trying to keep things running. You stepped away, and everything fell apart. You mean the things I'd been holding together for years? I asked calm. The bills I paid with my own money? The meds I reordered every month? The insurance calls? The transportation? You thought you could replace all of that without talking to me? We thought you were done, he muttered. That you didn't want to be involved. You made that decision for me, I said. In the hallway, in that meeting, when my name disappeared from every plan, when you labeled me a complication. Claire stayed quiet. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I'm sorry, she whispered. We should have handled things differently. I nodded once. Yes, you should have. Jason tried again. So what now? What do you want? I tilted my head. Nothing. He blinked. Nothing? I'm not coming back, I said. Not to the accounts. Not to the planning. Not to the patchwork fixes. I've rescinded every shared authorization. I've filed legal documentation to remove my name from all joint assets. I've contacted the bank, the insurance, the utilities. If my name was on it, it isn't anymore. But you can't just walk away, Mom said, voice rising. We're family. I looked at her then, really looked. And where was that family when I was covering $700 in monthly expenses? When I was spending weekends cleaning Grandpa's fridge? When I was skipping vacations, working late, living small so everyone else could breathe easier? Jason opened his mouth. I didn't let him speak. You didn't think I'd walk away. That's the real problem. You thought you could gut the structure, reroute the wiring, and the lights would still turn on. But they didn't. Because it wasn't luck. It was me. Quietly, consistently, invisibly me. Claire finally spoke. They see it now, she said softly. Good, I replied. But it's too late. Silence. Lila shook her head. You've changed. No, I said. You just finally saw the line I was willing to draw. I clicked, leave meeting, and closed the laptop. I didn't wait to see if anyone called back. Didn't check the chat. Didn't wonder what they said when I disappeared from their little grid of control. Later that night, Claire messaged me. Just one line. They're unraveling faster than they'll admit. I didn't respond. I sat on the couch, folded the laundry slowly, lit a candle on the windowsill, and let the quiet settle. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was a start. The unraveling didn't happen in a single explosion. It came in waves predictable, almost rhythmic. First, a notice from the pharmacy. Grandpa's prescriptions had gone unfilled for 2 weeks. Then came the email from the mortgage company, addressed to authorized parties, of which I was no longer one. It detailed missed payments, penalties, a pending delinquency flag. Claire forwarded it to me with a single line. They're in denial. I didn't reply. By week 3, I heard through a mutual friend that Jason had lost it during a family call, screaming about the bills, the accounts, how no one was doing their part. Apparently, Lila hung up halfway through. Mom cried. No one knew how to access Grandpa's appointment schedule. No one had the contact at the in-home nurse agency. No one knew where the list of medications was kept. I did. I always had, but they never asked. Instead, they tried to replicate what I had built in silent structure, routine, calm, but without the will to maintain it. I had done it alone for so long they thought it must be easy, that it just happened, that the money moved itself, the care arranged itself, the meds arrived without someone confirming dosages, syncing calendars, battling insurance providers who didn't return calls unless you cried. I used to cry, quietly, over hold music, in bathroom stalls between shifts. I don't cry now. Then came the message from the landlord. Not mine, Mom and Grandpa's, a notice of intent. Premises will be evaluated for early termination if arrears are not resolved by the 18th. Claire sent me a screenshot. She didn't add anything. She didn't need to. A week later, a letter arrived. Actual paper. My name on the envelope, written in Mom's cursive. Inside, 2 pages. The first was a list: bills, costs, overdue notices, upcoming medical needs. The second was a note. It didn't begin with a greeting. It didn't say, "I'm sorry." It said, "We don't know what to do. Things are falling apart. We thought we could manage. We were wrong." I folded the letter neatly and placed it back in the envelope. Didn't throw it away. Didn't respond either. The next day, Claire called. I let it ring. She texted instead. "They're asking if you'll come to a family dinner. Mom's idea, said she wants to reset." I stared at the message. Thought about the word reset. As if the years of quiet labor, erasure, and convenient betrayal could be cleared like a whiteboard. I texted back, "Number." 2 hours later, Jason emailed. A long one, full of caveats and revisions. "I know we made mistakes. I was under a lot of pressure. I never meant to exclude you." But then, buried in the 4th paragraph, "We need someone reliable to step back in. You've always been the best at logistics." I laughed, alone in my kitchen. Reliable, like a faucet, or a fuse box, not a person, a function. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the latest report from Ethan. He had finished the audit. All instances of financial manipulation, forged authorization, and unauthorized use of my information were documented, time-stamped, and ready. "Do you want to press charges?" he'd asked during our last call. I hadn't answered. Not yet. That weekend, I ran into Lila at the farmer's market. She was alone. No pearls, no clipboard, just a canvas bag full of wilting kale. She saw me, stopped mid-step. "Erin," she said, surprised. "You look well." I nodded. Said nothing. She smiled tightly. "Things have been challenging." I kept my voice flat. "Because I'm not doing them for you anymore?" Her smile faltered. She adjusted the bag on her shoulder, cleared her throat. "Maybe it was too easy to assume you'd always be there." "You didn't assume," I said. "You built around it." She didn't deny it. Before she walked away, she turned back. "I hope one day we can fix this." I nodded once. "You'd have to start by admitting it was broken." "Oh, She didn't respond. As she disappeared into the crowd, I stood still, breathing in the morning air. The sky was a sharp, bright blue, the kind of blue that doesn't soften anything, just reveals it more clearly. Later that night, Claire messaged one last time. "They're talking about selling the house. Jason's panicking. Mom's health is slipping. They're scared. They don't say it out loud, but they're scared." I didn't ask why she was telling me. She added, "They finally realize what you held together." I put my phone down, lit a candle, watched it flicker. They were unraveling, and for once I wasn't the one sewing things back. It's been 5 months. 5 months since the last group email with my name on it, 4 since the last call from Jason, 3 since Claire texted simply, "It's done," and never followed up. I didn't ask what done meant. I didn't need to. By then, I had learned to recognize silence not as absence, but as a decision. A boundary. A shape they could no longer cross. Grandpa moved into a care facility in early June. Claire told me in passing, said the house had grown too chaotic. Jason couldn't handle the day-to-day, she admitted. Mom's blood pressure kept spiking. The nurse quit. I nodded. She waited for more, but I had none to give. The center was decent. I had toured it once, back when I thought I'd be the one signing the papers. It smelled like peppermint and bleach. It would be enough. The house was sold 2 weeks later, quietly. No family photos in the listing, no "one owner since 1973" on the flyer. Just another property turned transaction. Jason moved out first, something about downsizing, debts, needing space. Lila disappeared shortly after. Claire stayed the longest, lingering in the half-packed rooms, sending me photos of old things she found in drawers, a dried corsage from Mom's anniversary, Grandpa's broken wristwatch, a grocery list in my handwriting from years ago. She never asked if I wanted anything, just sent the images, like small confessions. Mom ended up renting a one-bedroom in a different part of town. "It's fine," Claire said when I asked. "She misses the garden, but she says it's quieter, easier. I didn't visit, didn't offer to help her move." The last time we spoke, she told me, "I still don't understand what we did that was so wrong." I said, "That's why I left." She hasn't called since. There are days when the ache still arrives, uninvited. I'll see a box of Grandpa's favorite cereal at the store and feel the air leave my chest. Or I'll hear Claire's laugh in some stranger's voice and, just for a second, turn my head. But mostly, life is calm, plain, mine. I moved apartments. Smaller, but brighter. I bought myself a proper desk, started freelancing full-time. I stopped apologizing for long silences, stopped explaining why I don't show up to family holidays. I light candles on Sundays. I walk more. I laugh more. Sometimes I wonder what story they tell themselves now. Do they say I abandoned them? That I overreacted? That I was always dramatic? Maybe they tell people I drifted away. That things got complicated. I don't correct it. I've learned that peace isn't always built on truth. Sometimes it's built on distance. And I've earned mine. A few weeks ago, I got a letter. Handwritten. Claire's handwriting. No return address. Inside was a photo me, at 16, sitting on the back steps of Grandpa's porch, holding a plate of cake, laughing at something out of frame. She wrote on the back, "I remember this version of you. I hope you found her again." I didn't cry. I just placed the photo inside a drawer. Not to forget it. Not to hold on. Just to let it be. The world moves differently now, quieter. I no longer live in waiting for recognition, for gratitude, for the call that never came. I've stopped trying to translate silence. I've stopped folding myself into someone else's space. The last time I walked by the old house, the garden was overgrown. The new owners had painted the shutters white. The tree Jason carved our initials into was still there, though weathered, the bark splitting slowly. I stood across the street and looked at it, not with longing, but with clarity. That house was never mine. I just kept it from collapsing. And now, I don't need to anymore. Last week, a friend asked me if I missed them. I paused, sipped my coffee, said, "I miss who I thought they were." It was the truest thing I've said in a long time. Some days, I revisit the file Ethan helped me build. Not to pursue charges I never did, but to remember the shape of it, the math of what I carried, not for justice, for closure. I named the file Proof, and I never deleted it. It lives on a drive now, silent and untouched. I don't need it. But I don't erase it either. Not everything that's over needs to disappear. Some things can simply remain. As record, as reminder, as quiet proof that I was there, that I saw everything, that I walked away not because I wanted revenge, but because I was finally ready to stop bleeding for people who only noticed the wound when it stopped giving them warmth. There's a kind of strength in that. Not the loud kind. Not the kind that demands an audience. Just the kind that closes a door and doesn't look back. I don't know if they'll ever understand what they lost. But I've stopped needing them to. That, more than anything, is freedom.